It's April, and somewhere right now, a woman is screaming at her phone, not because something went wrong, because something went right. Her direct deposit notification just hit and her tax refund landed. $4,200. Clean. In one shot. She calls her sister. She texts her best friend. She posts a screenshot with the caption, "God is good," and 37 people like it within the hour. Her name is Danielle. She is 34 years old, makes $72,000 a year as a marketing manager, and by every visible measure she is doing okay. She works hard. She is responsible. She is not out here making reckless financial decisions. She pays her bills on time. She has a savings account. She even contributes a little to her 401k. And that $4,200 feels earned because it was a hard year, because she deserves something. Because finally, for once, a large sum of money showed up in her account and nobody was asking for it back. She books a flight to Cancun that same afternoon, $680 round trip. She pays down $1,100 on her credit card because that feels responsible. She buys a few things she had been putting off. By the end of May, $2,900 of that refund is gone. The remaining $1,300 sits in her checking account and quietly disappears into regular life over the next 6 weeks. By June, the refund is a memory. Now let me tell you about Megan. Megan sits 3 desks away from Danielle. Same company, same job title. She makes $71,000 a year. Actually, $1,000 less than Danielle. When April rolls around and people in the office start comparing refund amounts like lottery tickets, Megan mentions almost apologetically that she got $312 this year. Someone says, "Oh no, did you owe?" She says no, just a small refund. She smiles and changes the subject. Nobody asks any follow-up questions because there is nothing exciting to say about $312. Danielle's $4,200 is the story. Megan's $312 is almost embarrassing in comparison. The whole interaction lasts about 45 seconds and everyone moves on. What nobody in that office knows is that Megan has been doing something quietly since she was 26 years old. Something that took her about 20 minutes to set up and has never required her attention since. Something that by December of this year will mean she has $6,800 more sitting in her investment account than Danielle does. Same salary, same employer, same tax bracket, same year. One of these women is winning, and the scoreboard looks nothing like what most people think it does. This is not a story about taxes. It is a story about one of the most widely celebrated financial mistakes in America, and why the people who quietly opt out of it end up so far ahead that the gap becomes almost impossible to close. Let me tell you what a tax refund actually is, because nobody explains this part. Every time you get a paycheck, your employer withholds a portion of your money and sends it directly to the IRS. How much they withhold depends on what you told them on a form called a W-4 that you probably filled out on your first day of work. In between signing your benefits paperwork and figuring out where the bathroom was, most people fill it out quickly, guess at the answers, and never look at it again. If your employer withholds too much throughout the year, the IRS sends you the difference back in April. That is your refund. It is not a gift. It is not a bonus. It is not the government doing you a favor. It is your own money being returned to you after you let the federal government hold it interest-free for up to 12 months. Read that again. Interest-free for up to 12 months. If you borrowed money from a friend and paid them back a year later with no interest, your friend would be furious. But when the government does the exact same thing in reverse, we celebrate it. We post about it. We plan vacations around it. According to IRS data, the average federal tax refund in 2025 was $3,170. That means the average American overpaid the government by roughly $264 every single month last year and called it winning when they got it back. And here is where it gets painful. A 2024 analysis from Bankrate found that if that same $264 per month had been automatically invested into a basic S&P 500 index fund from January through December, earning the market's historical average return of around 8% annually, the investor would have ended the year with not just the $3,170 back, but an additional $138 in growth on top of it. That is just year one. Compounded over 10 years, that monthly $264 becomes over $48,000. Over 20 years, it becomes more than $155,000. The refund is not the reward. The reward is what you give up when you choose the refund instead. Let me walk you through exactly how this trap works, why almost everyone falls into it, and what the people who quietly avoid it are doing differently. The first thing nobody tells you is that the government is not saving money for you. It is borrowing it. This sounds obvious once you hear it, but most people have never framed it this way. When you overpay your taxes throughout the year, you are essentially giving the IRS an interest-free loan. Banks borrow money from depositors and pay them interest for the privilege. The government borrows money from taxpayers through overwithholding and pays them nothing. Not a dollar, not a thank you, just the principal back in April, which by then has lost purchasing power to inflation. The money you get back in April buys slightly less than the money you sent in January. You lost twice. Once to the time value of money and once to inflation, and you celebrated both losses. The second thing nobody tells you is what that refund is actually costing you over a lifetime. Let us run the real numbers. If you have been receiving an average refund of $3,000 or more every year since you were 25 years old and you are now 35, you have handed the government $30,000 in interest-free loans over the last decade. Had that money been invested monthly instead, at the market's historical average of 8% annually, you would have approximately $52,000 sitting in an investment account right now instead of 10 years of April celebrations that are mostly gone. If you keep the same pattern from 35 to 55, the cost of your refund habit over your working life will exceed $200,000 in foregone investment growth. That is not a rounding error. That is a retirement account. The third thing nobody tells you is that lump sum money gets spent in ways that monthly money never would. This is not a willpower problem. It is a psychology problem, and the research backs it up. A 2024 study from the National Bureau of Economic Research found that people spend approximately 40% of their tax refund within 2 weeks of receiving it, primarily on non-essential purchases. The reason is something behavioral economists call the windfall effect. When money arrives in a large unexpected lump, our brains categorize it differently than regular income. It feels like extra money even though it is not extra at all. It is the same money you earned in February, just returned late. But because it feels like a windfall, it gets spent like one. Danielle's Cancun trip is not a personal failing. It is a completely predictable psychological response to receiving $4,200 all at once. The solution is not more discipline. The solution is to never let the lump sum happen in the first place. The fourth thing nobody tells you is that adjusting your withholding is legal, easy, and exactly what financially savvy people do. There is a persistent myth that getting a small refund or owing a small amount means you did something wrong. It does not. It means your withholding was accurate. The IRS does not reward you for overpaying, and they do not penalize you for paying the right amount. What they do penalize is significant underpayment, which is a different thing entirely and easy to avoid. The sweet spot is getting as close to zero as possible at tax time. A small refund or a small amount owed, ideally under $1,000 either way. That means your money stayed with you all year instead of sitting with the government. Getting there requires updating one form, your W-4. You can do it today. It takes 20 minutes on the IRS website, and your HR department processes the change within 1 or 2 pay periods. The fifth thing nobody tells you is where the money should go once you free it up. This is the part that actually changes your financial trajectory. Once you adjust your withholding and recover $200 to $300 per month, that money needs a job before it hits your checking account, or it will disappear the same way the refund did. The priority stack looks like this. If you have high interest debt, meaning credit cards above 7% interest, that extra monthly cash flow goes there first. Every dollar you put toward a credit card charging 24% interest is an instant guaranteed 24% return. Nothing in the market beats that. Once high interest debt is gone, build a 3 to 6 month emergency fund in a high yield savings account earning 4% or more. Once that is funded, open a Roth IRA if you do not have one and max it out at $7,000 annually for 2026. What you are doing is converting a once-a-year lump sum that got spent on a trip to Cancun into a monthly automated investment that builds wealth while you sleep. Same money, completely different outcome. Let me bring Danielle and Megan back and show you what the next 10 years looks like for both of them. Danielle continues doing what she has always done. Her refund averages $3,400 per year over the next decade. She spends most of it within 60 days every April. She increases her 401k contribution slightly at 38, but never quite gets to the level she intends to. By the time she is 44, her retirement account holds $41,000. She has $3,800 in savings. Her credit card balance sits at $4,200, almost exactly the same as her annual refund, year after year, because the refund pays it down and then life builds it back up. She is not in crisis. She is just stuck, treading water with a smile. Megan adjusted her W-4 at age 26 after a conversation with a coworker who had taken one personal finance course in college. She freed up $283 per month and set up an automatic transfer to a Roth IRA the same day. She never touched the setting again. She never thought about it again. It just ran. By the time Megan is 44, she has $106,000 in her Roth IRA. Her emergency fund has $18,400. She has no credit card debt because the consistent monthly cash flow meant she never needed to carry a balance through a hard month. She took a trip to Portugal last fall. She paid for it with a dedicated travel savings account she set up alongside the Roth. She did not post a screenshot of her tax refund in April because there was nothing dramatic to post. She posted pictures from Lisbon instead. Same company, same job title. One woman makes $1,000 more per year. The other has $106,000 more in investments at 44. The difference is not income. The difference is not intelligence. The difference is one 20-minute conversation and one form submitted to HR on a Tuesday afternoon 8 years ago. Let me give you something concrete to walk away with, because information without action is just entertainment. This week, go to irs.gov and use the free tax withholding estimator tool. You will need your most recent pay stub and last year's tax return. The tool walks you through your income, deductions, and credits and tells you exactly how much you are currently over or under withholding. It takes less than 10 minutes, and it will show you a number that is going to make you feel some kind of way. Let it. This month, take that number to your HR department or your employer's payroll portal and submit an updated W-4. You do not need an accountant. You do not need to understand every line of the form. The IRS estimator tells you exactly what to enter. Submit the form and your next paycheck will reflect the change. Calculate what your new monthly difference is, the amount that will now stay in your paycheck instead of going to the IRS, and set up an automatic transfer for that exact amount to a separate account on the same day you get paid. Do not let it sit in checking. Give it a destination before it arrives. This quarter, track your first 3 adjusted paychecks and confirm the numbers match what the estimator projected. Then, open a compound interest calculator. There are free ones at investor.gov, and type in your monthly contribution amount 8% annual return, and 20 years. Write down the number you see. Put it somewhere you will look at it regularly. That number is what the annual Cancun screenshot is actually costing you. Once you see it, you cannot unsee it. It's April again. Danielle just got her notification. $3,800 this year. She screenshots it before she even gets out of bed. Posts it by 8 a.m. The comments are full of fire emojis and congratulations. It feels good. It always feels good. For about 6 weeks, Megan sees the post while she is drinking her coffee. Her refund was $204 this year. She does not post it. There is nothing to say. She closes the app and opens her investment account instead. The balance reads $106,420. She thinks about Portugal. She thinks about the fact that she has not lost sleep over a car repair or a medical bill in 4 years. She thinks about the meeting she has next week with a financial advisor to talk about retiring at 58 instead of 65. Then she puts her phone down and goes about her Tuesday. Nobody in that office will congratulate Megan this April. Nobody will ask her what she is doing differently. Nobody will connect her quiet Tuesday morning to the 2 decades of 20-minute decisions that built it. But Megan does not need the screenshot moment. She already has the life. The refund is not the reward. The reward is what happens when you stop lending the government your money for free and start putting it to work for yourself instead. One form, 20 minutes. The rest is just math and time, and you have both.